Hello, Jason here from Instruo. I'm doing a video that I've been keen to do for years now, only just now kind of getting around to it. This is a video on the Harmony, which is, at this time, it's the longest running module in active production since I started Instruo. So yeah, I figured out, tracked it back, pretty sure this time 10 years ago of summer 2016, I'll have been very much in active development of refining what became the actual production launch module. Yeah, I launched it at Superbooth 2017, so that was the active announcement of it as a module. But I mean, it actually predates me getting into Eurorack in terms of the functions and the algorithms that are my way of working through chord theory and modal harmony from when I was studying musical modes. I kind of built it in a series of max patches, stuff like that. But yeah, it became a very staple quantiser module in the Instruo range. Yeah, so for years, the main overview video for the Harmony has been a quick and crude top-down phone camera video that I shot so I would have something to share with the initial customers that bought the first batch, because I hadn't written the actual paper manual at that time. So this video I'm going to format in 3 main sections. So the first section will be a bit of a condensed speedrun of a quick overview of the ins and outs of the features, functionality of the Harmony. So that's for anyone that is a Harmony owner, Harmony user, that just wants a quick refresher, like you've maybe not patched with it for a minute. This will be a quick, concise bit that you can go through and just get a reminder of how to use it. Following that will be a bit more of a general overview that goes into the ins and outs and the mechanics of how the module works and builds towards this patch as an example. So kind of explaining how and why it works and how to patch with it. And then the latter section of this video, I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive. I'm going to go into chord theory and modal harmony and try and produce a bit of a music theory lesson of how that works and how that relates to the Harmony, how it's implemented. I'm very much of the opinion that you do not need to know music theory to be a good musician or a composer, or even to use the Harmony. Like, the Harmony is designed and incorporates a lot of music theory in it to make it accessible and top level. I think music theory is a lot of fun. I think it's a really useful tool if you're a composer, musician, performer, to quickly analyze and build up a vocabulary to be able to recognize why something sounds the way it sounds and be able to utilize that and maybe write something inspired from a sound that catches your ear. It speeds things up from being more of a trial and error approach. So yeah, I'm going to be jumping between modular, guitar and keyboard to sort of go through an overview of how chords are derived from traditional Western harmony techniques and what the musical modes are and how useful they can be. But yeah, I think this video has been a long time coming. It's been on my to-do list for a while, and I kind of just want to thank everyone that's supported over the years and kept this module very relevant to the Instruo range. It's inspired a lot of other modules, like the Scythe, the Ara, like a few other parts of the range have expanded very much to build upon the Harmony as a starting point, as a quantization engine. So yeah, it's not going anywhere, and I still use it very actively. So this is me just catching up and filling in the gaps in terms of explanation of how and why it works. So hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. Let's start with a speed run. So if you already have a harmony and you're just looking for a quick refresher on what the controls are, this might be the only section of the video you need. So I'll try and keep it quick. I've got all 4 outputs patched through the scope and into the SAIC. So we're hearing all 4 CV outputs controlling 4 parallel oscillators. CV input in the top left, it's got an attenuverter at the top. So center position is attenuated and it'll go up full positive or full negative. It'll stretch slightly past unity gain. So if you are quantizing already quantized voltages, this will compensate for any voltage drop. There are 2 fundamental modes of operation for the harmony. Quantiser mode, which is what we're in currently, where I can enable and disable scale tones. Enabled ones show in yellow, and the active root note shows in white. Performance mode changes the keyboard to being a manually playable single octave keyboard. To get to that, press and hold transpose and tap diatonic. I can now manually play chords. The gate output follows what I'm playing as a gate output. Back to quantiser mode, transpose, diatonic. Inversion and voicing. These will change the voicing will change the distribution of the notes in the chord. Inversion will rotate them through their valid chord tones. So closed position, root inversion, all 4 notes within an octave starting from the root note. The inversions will rotate these round for that voicing. Drop 2 and drop 3 are spreading things out slightly, and open voicing is a further stretched drop 2 voicing. And each of these can be inverted in their rotational roles. The 4 outputs have got analog slew limiters per output. Get a little bit of glide between notes. For manual control or CV control over the chord quality, press the button to lock that into being manually defined, so you can get parallel motion of any chord, or if you're sequencing duophonically, you can sequence your root note as well as your chord quality. Next we've got the actual modes themselves. If I press and hold transpose, I can now select between Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian for our Ionian-based modes. So the brighter lit one is the active mode. If I press the diatonic button, I've got the 7 modes of the harmonic minor scale if I want to go a bit darker and do alterations of certain Ionian modes, or go to super Locrian and get things really dark. Let's go back to Ionian. Press transpose again to exit that. Last section is custom chords. I'll go to performance mode, I'll go into manual, and I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, or 4. These are user definable chord clusters. So to customize, I need to be in manual mode, so hover over one of the 4. Press and hold transpose and double tap diatonic. Now I can program in the chord tones that I want. So let's say I want to go major add 9. It's very performable for adding alterations, but you could also go further and create atonal clusters of any semitone as your chord, and then invert and offset that. So make things as musical or non-musical as you could want. The choice is yours. For transposition, there are 3 layers of transposition. There's diatonic, which is when the button's engaged yellow. The fader acts as a bias that sums in with the external CV. So you can shift things up 2 octaves positive or 2 octaves negative within the quantized scale. If I want to retune things globally and essentially put a musical capo on the virtual fretboard, I can move everything up in parallel, either in semitone divisions or microtonally. So to access these, you double tap from off and you get this off-white color. It'll time out on its own just as a safety measure so you don't accidentally detune your live set on the fly. But if I change the fader while it's active, I can offset globally in semitone divisions up 2 octaves or down 2 octaves. The last mode is microtonal. So when it's lit pure white, I've got 1 octave up or 1 octave down fine tuning. So I can now have it set to something that's up a certain number of semitones and then detuned microtonally. If I want to quick clear that, say I'm coming back to a system that I can't remember the last configuration of the harmony, if I want to manually clear that, I can press and hold transpose and double tap C. And that will quick clear any of the global transposition settings. Save you having to go through them each manually and center the fader. I think that's everything. Okay, next up I'm going to go into a bit more of a medium level of depth with the harmony. So this section will probably be best suited to anyone that's new to the harmony as a module in general. So I'm going to build up a patch and show the features and functionality in more actual context. So for the patch, I've got a Psych set up. So this is my quad oscillator module. So under the hood, it's 4 discrete sawtooth waves. And they're kind of paraphonically linked under a macro VCA. So I'm on a particular mix profile that gives me the ability to bring up mixed layers of the 4 waveforms. And I'm going to be patching that out to this guy, one of the filter channels on the KR. And this should be tuned to C. Yeah. So I'll keep this on just single sawtooth monophonic to start with. And yeah, let's kind of cover the initial basis of what a quantizer is. The harmony, in a lot of ways, it doesn't differ from a lot of other standard quantizers that are out there, apart from the fact that it has 4 outputs and does harmonic harmonization or diatonic harmonization. But fundamentally, it can be a more straightforward monophonic quantizer as well. So to show this, I've got a sequencer set up that is set to unquantized, and this is a 0 to 5 volt per step sequence. So if I patch that directly into my oscillator, I could be define in a melody, but because it's unquantized, the pitches are going to be microtonally anywhere, which may be what I want. But if I want something more tonal, quantizers are the way to get notes a bit more musically curated. So I'm now running my output of the octone of the sequence into my input of the harmony, and the root output here, so the 4 outputs are on the top here. The leftmost one, marked root, that's my primary output. So I've got all the outputs running through the scope just so we can see them. Okay, let's stall that for a moment, and there we go. It's quantizing to major scale because that's the only set of notes that I have engaged at the moment. And you'll hear that's going up to a 2 octave range. So I've got this scaled in at the input. So the harmony's input has an attenuverter, and that will let me scale and invert my incoming CV. So if I set this down to the center position, it means it's attenuated the incoming CV. But I could also flip that negative if I wanted to go down and sequence into the negative domain. So I could, this is now reversing all my CV levels, and the higher the voltage, the lower the note. So bipolar quantization. Let's go back to 2 octaves up. So I've got 5 volts here. Oh, that's only one. Let's go up another octave. There we go. So that is quantization in a nutshell. Where the harmony differs, of course, is having these parallel outputs. So what I'm going to do is just add these in and see what happens. So I'm going to patch to my second volt per octave on the side, mix in that second voice. So at the moment we're just hearing 2 phasing sawtooth waves following the same volt per octave signal. But now the second oscillator gets its own branch, and this is now harmonized to a third. So now if I sequence, it's more than just playing that basic monophonic route. We've got paraphonic harmonized quantization. Okay, let's go back to one step and let's add our extra chord tones. So let's go third oscillator. That's going to pull from the third output, which is labeled as the 5th. So that's because we have root, 3rd, 5th and 7th. So the 4 chord tones built up from diatonic harmonization. So now if I bring up my third oscillator, this is fleshed out to being a full triad. And let's go one more. 4th oscillator coming from our 7th scale degree, which is the 4th output, and that's adding in that sort of dreamy major 7th chord now. So I'm going to sequence this again, but what I'll do, I'll patch out from the gate output on the harmony. So we'll see every time the quantizer latches to a new note, it's sending a trigger pulse from this gate output. So I'll patch that out, send that to an envelope, and then control the filter cutoff from that envelope. So bring that down a bit. There we are. Just want a little bit of articulation per chord. And now if I engage my sequencer again, and we've got quantization of our root note, but per root note we're deriving the 3rd, 5th and 7th degree of a 4-part scale, a 4-part chord. And the chord tones themselves, they're actually relevant to the scale in a way that's not specifically the scale that I defined here. It's actually pulling this harmonic profile from the musical modes. So in this case, the harmony is in its default state, which is the Ionian mode, which is a major scale. So that's why I've got only the major scale showing in. But it means I've got sequenceable capability of curating full chord progressions in the same way that I would patch up just a monophonic melodic voice. So yeah, melodically, anything that's in major scale is going to be related to this chord progression, which is being derived from the major scale. Okay, let's look at some of the sort of mechanics of the harmony that just ease this sort of setup, because I'm using the Psych, which is very much a a quad oscillator that I designed to pair with the harmony. It came a few years later, of course, but kind of the beauty of the harmony is you're not limited to just a single quad oscillator. You can use any oscillator combinations you want, which gets into pretty wild territories. If you go, your root note might be a full complex oscillator with hard sync ratios, but you might go super saw for your third, fifth and seventh could be wave folders. Yeah, it gets versatile. But to get this to all play in tune, you need to tune all your oscillators to a common unison. So there's a mode on the harmony that I programmed in, which lets me more easily achieve this. So at the moment we're hearing our major seventh, because that's where it's landed in terms of chord quality. But if these, let me detune my oscillators. So now, these could be further out of tune than just this, but to align them to an octave or to a unison, I want to get the same voltage amplitude from all four CV outputs. So to do that, there's a unison tuning mode built in. So if I hold diatonic, inversion, and double tap my C note, this now sets all four outputs to jump in octave intervals. That's really dissonant. Yeah, so this now allows the transpose fader to offset in perfect octaves. So if I apply a mix of some of my voices, let's go with my root, or my first oscillator, second oscillator, I can tune these to unison, and I know that this is all relevant because they're being fed the same volt per octave signal. There we go. So that's all four of my oscillators now tuned to a unison. If I hit C once more, that goes back to the diatonic harmonization, and we're in tune. Let's talk chord quality. So far I've been demonstrating this, and it's been automatically changing the chord quality as the root note changes, as the scale degree changes. So this is the default behavior, where it's diatonically harmonizing based on a modal center. So in this case it's the Ionian mode, and because I've only got the major scale defined, it's neatly playing that chord scale, following major seventh, minor seventh, minor seventh, major, dominant seventh for the fifth, minor seventh, and then minor seven flat five, then back to my root. But if I don't necessarily want that set of chords for whatever sequence of root notes I've defined, I've got full control over that, where I can engage this button, and that changes the chord quality to being defined by this knob and CV input. So anything's possible. It means that if I'm using a sort of duophonic sequencing context, I could be sequencing my scale degree to define the root notes for my chord progression, and simultaneously I can be fully curating the chord quality across a wide range of seventh chords, and then custom chord tunings as well. So for 4-part chords, this kind of covers all the typical seventh voicing variations, where we have major seventh, minor seventh, dominant seventh there in the middle. It kind of is distributed almost from a sort of dark to light combination, where major seventh and our minor seventh being are sort of like stable chord qualities that can sustain quite nicely. Dominant's a bit more unstable, of course, but then major seventh we go through to augmented modification. So we have augmented major seventh, augmented dominant. Going anti-clockwise, we go to minor seven flat five, full diminished, and then the minor major seventh, that sort of awkward dark chord. So yeah, a lot of control over manual or voltage controlled sequencing over the chord qualities. What I'll play next is kind of an example of what happens if you were to sequence in parallel motion. So this, I think, is where the harmony differs from other quantiser contexts where, like, say you had 2 or 3 quantizers in a system, you could tune them to being the same scale and just set offsets to have it automatically define between root, third and fifth. But what you lose is the tonal context where the harmony knows what scale degree it's on and what chord quality it should be playing. But if I were to sequence this, then it's the same pattern of root notes I had previously on the sequencer, but every single chord is a minor 7th chord, or every single chord is a major 7th chord. And harmonically, it's interesting. I mean, compositionally, this might be what you need, might be what you want, and it's a useful harmonic technique in when used musically, but it can sound a bit unrelated and random. Whereas if I disengage that, we've got more tonal relevance of the chord progression. It's actually progressing through a series of available chord qualities that are related to a source, in this case Ionian major. So it means this being a chord progression, I could add a melody that's based around this scale, and it should fit quite comfortably, quite harmonically. So it's a very easy way to consolidate things down to a tonal center. Let's talk non-diatonic scale degrees. So far I've kept this in major scale. I've had all the white keys engaged, and we're in Ionian mode, which is what the scale is. So all the chords derived are home to the tonal center. But that leaves me with 5 additional notes that fill in the gaps, and begs the question, what chord quality do they derive? What chords do they add? If I want to change modal center, I press and hold the transpose button, and that brings up this menu here of showing the major scale, but then with one LED brightly lit. So this is Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. And then if I tap the diatonic button, it changes this option range to harmonic minor. So we have harmonic minor scale, or harmonic minor mode, and then we have all the modes of the harmonic minor scale. So we then have Locrian natural 6, then I have Ionian sharp 5, all the sort of altered versions. So it gets darker, it gets more dissonant. Let's keep this to Ionian just now. So once I've selected the mode, just tap transpose again, and we're back to quantiser engine. So yeah, for every single musical mode, there are a pattern of non-diatonic scale degrees. So for major scale, it's all the black keys, of course, but that means we have these 5 chords that need a context. They need a chord quality. And what I did was I picked what I felt were it's a combination between the most prominent modal interchange chords that are relevant to, that translate best to the home mode or home scale. And some of them I maybe tweaked slightly just to find patterns that I thought voice-led better. Like if you're going chromatically as a leading chord, it sort of resolves quite nicely as a cadence. So let me go up gradually with full chromaticism applied. So we have our major 7th for our first scale degree, then a flat 2 major 7, our 2 minor 7, flat 3 major 7, our 3 minor 7, 4 major 7th. We then have the tritone, the flat 5, so that's a minor 7 flat 5. Our dominant 7th, major 7th for flat 6, our minor 7th for our natural minor, flat 7 major 7, and then our minor 7 flat 5. So for Ionian mode, it's very major 7th heavy, which is just kind of the nature of kind of just the character nature of Ionian mode. It means if I play chromatically, you can even see on the scope, like there are just small movements. So going from that minor 7 flat 5 on the last degree, we're just dropping that root down to achieve that major 7th. So there are a lot of just nice, elegant changes in chord tone that change the root note and frame a context that's nice and musical. So it means I can kind of pick a mode, pick a random assortment of scale degrees, and the resulting chord progression will have relevance. Yeah, the main goal that I wanted when designing the harmony was I wanted to be able to kind of compose harmonically in the same way that I would just be patching in terms of experimenting with sound design and just trying out a patch, seeing where it leads. You can kind of do the same thing. You just patch a random sequence in, hook this up to multiple oscillators, and you can just pick and choose and cherry pick certain notes. If something doesn't work, just change the root degree, and it's pulling from a pretty safe, finite range of relevant chords. The harmony is currently in its quantiser mode. We can see that because we can enable and disable notes across the keyboard. Any enabled notes are lit yellow, and any of the active, like the current quantized root note, is lit white. So you can see what note you're currently on. But if I want to do things a bit more manually, if I hold transpose and tap diatonic, it changes it to being this manually performable single octave keyboard, which sequence is still coming in. Let me freeze this sequence on one step. The input CV still functions, but it now is restricted to octaves only. So it means that you could be sequencing octave registers on top of what you're performing in manually. While it's in this mode, you'll see the gate output is generating gate signals. So let me run that through my envelope, set that to ASR mode, bring this down a bit. Slow those slopes. So yeah, that's performance mode. Each of the CV outputs has actually got its own dedicated analog slew limiter. So I'm going to bring those up a little bit. So we now see more dramatically on the scope. We're getting a slight parallel glide of all the voicing CVs. So this can be quite dramatic if there are more extreme octave jumps, so especially when you're changing voicing and inversion. But when you're on a particular voicing spread, it adds quite a nice bit of just drift and motion to the chord changes. Let me go back to sequencing this in quantiser mode. So this sort of patch, I can't help but hear the synth voice and the BoJack Horseman theme. That slew following the attack. It's quite nice. Okay, let's take those off. Let's talk inversion and voicing. I'm going to go back to performance mode. Just keep this static. So at the moment, my default position is root inversion and close voicing. So these two parameters, they kind of go hand in hand. There's a bit of automatic selection of the voicing spread in relation to the inversion that I baked in under the hood, but there's a lot of control that you gain from these two parameters. Let's start with inversion. So at the moment we've got our C major 7th chord, which the voicing is closed position. So it means that our notes are C, E, G and B, and everything's within 1 octave span. If I invert this, we'll see on the scope, I'm going to take my lowest note of the voicing, so that's C note, and it's going to go up an octave. So this is our first inversion. So we've inverted the rotation of the notes. Second inversion, it takes that new lowest note, which is now the 3rd, puts that up the octave. So it's now 5th, 7th, root 3rd. And third inversion is everything rotated around. So we're starting from that major 7th. So that's chord inversions. The voicing spread is probably the more... They're so integrated, like you use both at the same time, but I think if you're keeping it to root inversion, my go-to is just to play with the voicing spreads, because it retains the priority of the engine is to optimize for consistent root note. So in this case, I'm in root inversion, so the C's in the bass. As I go through the voicing spread, that C always remains in the bass. Or if I go to F major 7, same deal. D flat major 7th, same thing. If I go through my voicings, my root note staying put. So drop 2 and drop 3, these are terms for chord voicings that I'll go into more depth later in the video in a dedicated chord theory section. But in a nutshell, they change the spread, the distribution of the chord tones without changing what the chord tones are. So the chord stays the same, it just changes the order and distribution of them. So if we look at our spacing here, as I go to drop 2, it's taken that E and put up the octave. So we're now root 5, 7, 3. The drop 3, that's taken that 5th up, so we're now root 7, 3, 5. And the open voicing, if I can do this and compare between the drop 2 and the open, it's essentially just the drop 2 voicing where it's root 5, 7, 3, but it then takes that 7th and puts up the octave. So it's a drop 2 with an additional spread. The terms drop 2 and drop 3, they come from a derivative of soprano, alto, tenor, bass voicing arrangements, where you'll have a choral chord arrangement and drop 2. You take the second from top note in the chord and drop it down an octave. Because I've prioritized root note, it doesn't look like that's happening. It looks like we're taking the second from bottom and putting it up an octave, but these are drop two voicings that are based on an inversion of the closed position to land on that consistent root. So it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you in terms of prioritizing in the right way. As you can see on the different inversions, each of these can be revoiced. It's probably better to look at the voicing as the foundation and then invert that. So it's no longer just the case of it changing like the lowest note, putting it up an octave, because it does this based on the scale degree. So it's the lowest chord degree, and it puts that up the octave. But when it's a spread voicing, it's taking each of those chord tones and moving it to its next closest upper related chord tone. So let's go back to my scale. What I'm going to do now is take my clock output, which is giving me a quarter note division. I'm going to patch that to a sample and hold. Use a longer patch cable. Clocking a sample and hold, and I'm going to be sending random CV to my voicing. So I've now got random quarter note division of my sequence, randomizing the voicing spread, which it really adds this sort of melodic character to it, where you're getting this interchange of the distribution of the chord tones. Yeah, it's really nice. Let's talk transposition. The harmony's got a lot of bases covered in terms of how you might want to shift things diatonically or even globally to be able to put a virtual capo on and change the fundamental key signature in. That's all done from this section here. There's a dedicated fader for transposition. By default, it's not going to do anything. With this LED off, the fader's just ignored. But if I engage it by pressing this button, I can now apply what's effectively a 2 octaves up or 2 octaves down bias to our incoming and attenuated CV signal. Let me turn my sequence off, so we're just hearing it static. 0 volts going in, that's giving me my C. If I have transpose engaged and nudge the fader up, I can go up to 2 octaves up or 2 octaves down. And this is diatonically transposing. So if I, for example, change to only having C, E, and G as available root degrees, it means I can nudge everything up so that 0 volts at the CV input is landing on that E minor 7. So now means that sequences coming in are being quantized and offset by that transposition. So if I turn my CV on again, the pattern of the chord progression has rotated round. It's almost like it's an inversion of it versus like taking it back down to no offset. But again, this is keeping it all relevant to the key or the defined scale. Like we're just nudging that starting root note. But let's say I wanted to change everything from being in C major to being in G major. That's where there's a bit of consideration needed in terms of how the harmony functions as a transposing instrument. We're hearing a C note with no offset and 0 volts in because I've got my oscillator tuned to C. But that's essentially arbitrary. My home key is defined by where my oscillator's tuned to, and synthesizers being largely analog and traditionally microtonal instrument, like an analog oscillator can be tuned to any frequency. So this doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hear a C, but it's the first degree of the defined quantized scale. And that's important. So if I want to move everything up to being in G, there are a couple of options. Either I can transpose diatonically and set 0 volts to playing G, but that requires that I have G enabled on my scale. And in this case, my starting scale degree is a dominant 7th chord. So it means that tonally, my 0 volt center is going to be a dominant 7th, which isn't necessarily what I'm looking for. Because if I want something to just be in G Ionian, G major scale, that's breaking the mold for this. So I would need to enable in my G major scale, which is everything here, but it's an F sharp. So now, if I'm playing through, I'm essentially playing a G major scale, but chord-wise, it's not following that major 7, minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant, minor, minor 7, flat 5 pattern. It's doing its own thing because it's starting from the 5th degree of the Ionian mode. So there's a better way to do this, which is keep it major scale and transpose globally. So to do that, I've got multiple levels of transpose on this fader. If I press it once, this is diatonic, so this is like the performable offset. If I press it twice, it goes this off-white color, and it'll stay on for a period of time. I've got a timeout just to avoid any accidental transposition, which could be dramatic in a performance context. But if I make adjustments while the LED is lit, we can hear this is shifting everything up globally in semitone increments. So if I want to go from C to G, that's 7 semitones. I need to move it up. There's my C. G is my target new note. There we go. That's us now playing G. If I bring in my other chord tones, G major 7. So I'm now in G Ionian, so I'm actually transposing key, but visually we're seeing a C. So that's where transposing instrument is the appropriate term. So if you think about a brass instrument or a woodwind family of saxophones, for instance, you get different sizes of saxophone, but the fingering, the keys, they stay the same. So a sax player or a trumpet player, they'll be reading in a certain key signature that is easier to, that's transposable. It means that the instrument itself is sounding in a different register, which I think I struggled with for a long time in terms of wrapping my head around why. It's like, why not just have them play the note they're playing, or why not write the note that they're playing? But it'd be quite cruel on players of those instruments to have to learn completely different fingerings to relate it to a common note. So it's fair enough, and I've adopted that model for the harmony, where I can now engage my sequence. And I've got the same chord progression, same tonality, but now everything moved up to G major. Because I've gone up a fifth, it's maybe a bit too on the high end, so I could go to my transpose offset, keep it diatonic, and just nudge that down an octave. So it does take a bit of curation and memory of what your offset is versus C, but that's also arbitrary. It depends on if you ever tuned your oscillator to C to start with. A lot of times in practice when I'm patching with the harmony, unless I'm incorporating a keyboard or guitar or another more traditional instrument, then I'll tune my modular system to that instrument. But if it's just staying in modular, a lot of the times I'll just go by mood and just like pick a note that just sounds like the right note arbitrarily, and I'll build out my harmony from that. So I've definitely landed on some patches that I've recorded and performed with that are microtonally not in any measurable key signature. They're in tune relative to the patch, but it's not on a chromatic equal tempered note. So for additional transposition, I've shown it with the semitone offset. There's a third option, which if I tap 3 times, it goes to pure white. Again, it will time out just to avoid accidental detuning. But this second global offset is fine tune, and it will give you +1 octave or -1 octave in smooth offset tuning. So I could nudge this down. Nudge it down slightly. So now, if I go to my G note, or what should have been a G, it's somewhere between that F sharp and G. Oh no, I went close enough down to make it F sharp. So that's just in G. Flat from G, sharp from F sharp. So yeah, we can get to microtonal tunings that are equal tempered from that relative point if we want. But now in this case, it's in tune with itself. I can sequence it. That's fine, but if I then want to play a melody over it in G major, I'm not gonna have a good time. So I added a way to like quick clear the global offsets, and that is if you hold transpose and double tap C. So that's us back to this being 0 volt offset globally. It doesn't affect the diatonic transposition, so that will remain as an offset summing with the CV input. Yeah, so I think it covers all bases in terms of setting the structure and context of tuning. There's one little Easter egg feature that I'm going to add in. If I go to my performance mode, bring up the depth of my envelope, set that to ASR. So this is with the gate output is generating an actual gate. Anytime I press and hold. So it means if I've got a slow attack, it's almost like a degree of velocity, or the longer I sustain a note, the more it'll swell in amplitude. If I go to my quantiser mode and disable all keys and then enter my performance mode, this changes the gate output to just being a trigger pulse on any keyed note. So now I can go to a more like a one-shot envelope configuration. So yeah, in case you want to prioritize consistency of your timing of your envelope, you can curate a very specific AR ramp. And every note played will produce the exact same envelope because it's a trigger signal. Okay, I'm going to do one more mode example with the harmony before I move into a section that's more of a deep dive on chord theory and musical modes. So I've shown a lot of the diatonic context. I've kept it in Ionian major scale just for simplicity. Let's expand the patch a little bit more. I'm going to use the cyc. I'm going to tap the sub button and drop my root note, my first oscillator down an octave, set that to PWM just so we've got a bit more. Just fill out the chord voicing a bit more. I'm going to keep this to being manual. Just bring my foundation cutoff down a bit. Sharp attack, longer release. Let's get a little bit more ambience. I'm going to send my low pass output into the aux input of my looper here. And that should be giving me a little bit of just ongoing delay and a bit of reverb. It's nice. One more addition. Patch from this top LFO and send that to my FM input of the cyc. So a little bit of vibrato. Okay, so far this is all in C major. Let's change mode. Let's go to a different color. I'll keep within major. I think Lydian's got quite a particularly nice diverse range of non-diatonic tones added in. So I'm now in Lydian mode, where if I play my major scale but sharpen the fourth, then I'm playing the natural scale degrees of Lydian mode. So you see that starting on major seventh again, goes straight to dominant minor. Then we have that minor 7 flat 5, which is our character tone. That's the sharp 4. So it means that we still have a lot of these non-diatonic tones. So our flat 2 is now a flat 2 minor 7 flat 5. Which in terms of voice leading, compositionally it's quite nice. It's just a change in the root note going from our major 7th chord to sharpening it to creating the flat 2 minor 7 flat 5. Everything moves up for the dominant second. And then a full diminished, which really nicely voice leads to that 3 minor 7. So very different from Ionian. If I do that same, if I play that same sequence manually but set it to being Ionian, we're going to have a very different set of chords. Oops, landed on the wrong note there. Do that again. Very different harmonic center. It's still landing on that C major 7, but minor to flat 3 major 7 to minor. And then the 5th is our dominant 7, so it's got that sort of 5-to-1 cadence there. Compare that to Lydian again. Yeah, very different. A lot more interesting modal harmony is available by just using the same root progression but trying out different modes, additioning different musical modes, and you get a very different harmonic center. going to go with open voicing, root position, and let's just hear it chromatically descending. Compare that to Ionian. Let's try another one. Let's go Aeolian, natural minor. So I'll play through just the natural minor scale. So that's our flat and third degree, flat 6, flat 7, back to the octave. But it means that I've got the non-diatonic tones of that scale. So I've got my major third, which is a minor 7 flat 5 modal interchange in this case. We still have flat 2 and flat 3 major 7s, the flat 3 major 7 being natively part of that scale. So our natural 6, minor 7 flat 5, it's got that nice movement of just the bass note. So let's do one in harmonic minor. Let's just go to our harmonic minor mode and I'll play through the harmonic minor chord scale. So this having a flat 3 interval in the formula of the scale itself, we end up with chords that are a bit more out there. So this goes down to that minor major 7th for our fundamental, which that's quite a dark chord to sit on as your foundation tuning. Then we have full diminished as our 7th degree. Again, flat 2 major 7. We now have augmented major 7 as our 3rd degree. Natural 3rd, it's got that minor 7th. So yeah, voice leads quite nicely. What I'll do a lot of the times when I'm working in harmonic minor is the 7th degree is kind of a bit too much a lot of the times. Like, you know, I'll maybe use those notes if I'm improvising and playing melodically over it, but harmonically I don't necessarily need that information. So let me pull out my 7th. So now it's displayed on the scope still, but our 7th degree is now actually doubling the root note because this normals through. So now we just have harmonized triads of our harmonic minor scale. It's got that harmonic minor character to it, especially because we've got that augmented major triad on the 3rd degree. So yeah, just because the harmony has 4 outputs, full 7th chords, doesn't mean you necessarily need to use them all. Go back to a major mode. We'll go to Lydian and we'll hear that in just triads. Yeah, a lot of interesting places this can go, especially if you're just randomly sequencing in over full chromatic scales. You can land on some really interesting chord progressions that you wouldn't necessarily have gone to if you were picking up a guitar and just letting muscle memory lead you. This adds a bit of forced chaos into the mix, where we just adjust these notes a bit. So there, I might want to adjust that to being a 6th degree. So I'm fine-tuning as I go, and it's landing on something that feels quite nice as a That's what I want. There we go. Add my 7th degree back in, because we're in an Ionian mode, or major scale mode. Yeah, lots of happy accidents in the same way that you would get just patching on modular. That's the harmony. Okay, let's talk chords and a little bit of chord theory, and kind of explain what chords are and where they come from and why they work. And basically how I've got them to translate to the harmony in a modular context. The whole mechanic, it's very formulaic. It's actually very deceptively simple in a lot of ways. It's quite black and white. And everything kind of naturally derives from the major scale, which I won't go into a tangent on history of Western music, but playable modes, the playable scale, a lot of it is just built upon this original foundational scale and just series of 7 notes, 8th notes being the octave, so C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Yeah, pretty much everything in Western harmony kind of derives from this one scale. And it's curious, it's weird because that's a 7-note scale, 8 if you include the octave, but that's overlaid on top of a division of 12 notes, so there are 12 semitones within an octave. So it's based on a pattern, effectively. C major being a nice simple starting point on a Western keyboard, which is white keys and black keys. So the C major scale on a keyboard is all the white notes. So it's quite nice and easy to avoid playing a wrong note when you're staying tonally centered on major scale. And because we have the scale, we can naturally derive a chord scale from this pattern of 7 notes. And chords are derived quite simply by just skipping every other note. So if we start on C, if we want to build up our 1 chord, then we skip a note, play the next one, skip a note, play the next one, skip a note, play the next one. I'll keep it to 3 to start with. So if we go C, skip D and play E, we've got this dyad. So it's not a chord yet, because a chord needs to be 3 or more notes. If it's just 2 notes, that's a duophony. So you're harmonizing a melody. If we add a 3rd note, it fills out the context a lot more. So if I'm following this pattern of skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note, I end up with a C major triad, which is C, E, and G. So it's major, we can hear that. If I wanted to make it minor, I would need to make a change to the third degree and flatten that. So the third interval, as opposed to second, fourth, or fifth, the third specifically defines tonality. It defines whether it's a major chord or a minor chord. And a major chord is 4 semitones. So go C, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can count up, got 4 semitones, that means it's a major interval. The perfect fifth on its own, it's a bit more tonally ambiguous if it's just that dyad of 2 notes. Yeah, on its own, it doesn't have a specific major or minor tonality. It could be either. It could be at that major third, it could be a major chord. At a minor third, it could be a minor chord. The fifth is a perfect interval, so it kind of aligns more through harmonic overtone series than anything else. Perfect fifth is 7 semitones, so we count that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's our perfect fifth. Fill it in with the major third, major triad. If we follow this and complete it to being a 7th chord by skipping the 6th, playing the 7th degree of the scale, play all 4 of those together, and we have a major 7th scale, or major 7th chord, which if we look at the 7th degree specifically, it's 11 semitones to get to a major 7th interval. So a 7th interval has a tonality. It's either major or minor. So if we count up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it's actually easier to count backwards. So if I go C, go up the octave, go down a note, that's 1 semitone. So I know that that's a major 7th as opposed to a minor 7th, which would be that one there. But keeping it all white keys, keeping it the natural chord for this scale degree, that's what we get, major 7th chord. Let's move on to our next chord, which we just move to the next note in our scale and start from D and follow the exact same pattern. So because we're in C major scale, we know it's only ever white keys. So we do the same thing. We go D, we skip the second, skip the E, play the F, skip the G, play the A, skip the B, play the C. So now you can hear that it's another pretty stable musical chord that's been derived from this pattern of skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. But it's got a different tonality from our 1 chord. So the 2 chord, naturally from a C major scale, is D minor 7th. So if we go through interval by interval to sort of analyze it, we've got D, 3 semitones, so that's our minor third. If we count up 7 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's our D to A perfect fifth. Again, tonally ambiguous on its own until we add the third to give it context. And then our 7th is a minor 7th. So I can count up 10 semitones of 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or again, just go to the octave and count back. See how many semitones there are. So that's our minor 7th interval. So let's just carry on playing our scale by playing this fixed pattern of hand position, which I can get away with because it's all white keys. So we've got C major 7th, D minor 7th, E's also a minor 7th, so that's got that 3 semitone minor third, perfect fifth, minor 7th. F lands us back on a major 7th. The G, this is where we've got something a bit different. So if we analyse it, break it down again, let's look at the first interval, root to 3. That's 4 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Major third. Look at where the fifth is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 semitones, perfect fifth. And now, if I go to my octave, count down how many semitones there are back the way, it's a minor seventh. So this means we've got major third, perfect fifth, but a minor seventh in this chord, which is something a bit different. It's got more character to it, it's got more dissonance to it. Because of that minor seventh with the major third. So it's a major chord, but it's got this more prominent seventh third. The term in fact is dominant seventh. So this is a dominant seventh chord, where it's a root, major third, perfect fifth, minor seventh. And dominant chords, they're unstable. They want to resolve somewhere. They kind of like lead your ear in a direction. So it kind of wants to move certain notes and land and resolve somewhere. So this is what's called a cadence, where like certain scale degrees of a chord scale will just naturally want to go somewhere or resolve to a more stable chord. So in this case, I've resolved it to C major 7. So again, that's my G dominant 7th, and then I can resolve it to my C major 7th, which I can play in that position there. What I did was I tried to voice lead this a bit. So I went from my closed position G dominant 7th and just brought these two chord tones down. So I had C, E, G, and B, just reordered. So this is that'll be a second inversion of my C major 7th. So again, I'll play that cadence once more. So that's my G dominant, and I'll resolve it to C major 7. So yeah, dominant chords, they want to move somewhere. They want to resolve as a cadence. Dominant 7th. Let's move up the next chord in our scale. So we'll go C, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7th, G dominant 7th. We're on to A, which is another minor 7th voicing. Our last one, which for the major Ionian chord scale, this is another character chord. Again, it's got a sort of instability and unrest to it. It wants to resolve. So let's analyze it. Let's go from our root. So that's 3 semitones. So it's a minor third. Let's measure our fifth, which that's a dissonant interval. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So landing on that pattern of skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. Starting from B, we end up with this flat 5 interval, this diminished interval, which is only 6 semitones. And then skip a note, play a note, go to our 7th, that's a minor 7th chord. So it means we go from having minor tonality, we've derived that. It's a minor 7th because we've got a minor 7th interval on the top there, but then our 5th, which if we want it to be a minor 7th chord, we'd need to have that 7th interval, that 7 semitone interval. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Adding an accidental note, but playing it naturally, we've got that flattened 5th. So this is a B minor 7 flat 5 chord, which is also sometimes referred to as a half diminished chord, kind of borrowing more from like classical music terminology. Minor 7 flat 5, that's the more descriptive way to say it. So yeah, that's where chords come from, kind of. There are further modifications we'll get. There are more complex chords, but the foundations, that it's as simple as that. It's just skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. And tonality kind of writes itself. It has its own natural pattern that just sits quite nicely. And that's exactly what the harmony does. If I play the C, that's creating a major seventh, minor seventh, major seventh, dominant seventh, minor seventh flat 5, back to major seventh. So that's where the harmony is getting this pattern of parallel, additional harmonized, quantized voltages. It's just following this pattern of skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. And that's where chords come from. Okay, we have our 7th chords and chord scales down. Let's talk chord inversions. And this is kind of a rule set that applies to any chord mechanically. So it's much more of a mechanical reordering and re-representation of any chord. To invert a chord, you're changing the order of the notes, but not changing the notes themselves. So a C major 7th, regardless of inversion, is always going to be a C major 7. So we derive them from this root position, which is nice and easy to remember. But if I invert it, I'm going to take the lowest note and I'm going to throw that up an octave. So I now have my 3rd, 5th, 7th, and my root at the top of the structure. So this is my first inversion. Root inversion, first inversion, second inversion. So this is the chord voicing or chord inversion that I used in that cadence example where I was going from G dominant and resolving that down to my 1, but playing it as a second inversion. And kind of the reason that that's nice to do is it's counterpoint. It's voice leading, where I'm trying to optimize the smallest amount of movement between adjacent notes when I'm going to this different chord. So I'm changing the actual chord itself. I'm going from that G dominant, so G, B, D, and F, and changing 2 of the notes to make it that C major 7th, C, E, G, B. So this is how powerful inversions are. It's like you get a very different structure in terms of the ordering of the notes, which does affect the sound quality of it a lot. Like it's got a very different vibe, sound to it when it's inverted. The root inversion, closed position for the C major, it sits really stably. I think because there's breathing room, there's equal spacing between the chord tones. If I invert it once, put the C up the octave, I end up with more dissonance. It's the same chord, but it's got this flat 2 interval, this B to C directly beside each other, and that's dissonant. Something quite melodic about it, I think, because the spacing is so close. If I go to the next inversion, second inversion, that closely spaced flat 2 is still there, it's in the middle. And then the third inversion, when context given, when I'm given the bass note, I'm playing this double octave in the C root in the bass. It doesn't sound as dissonant, even though that interval's still there. I mean, it also comes down to how you play with dynamics as well. yeah, that's chord inversions. It's actually mechanically very straightforward. You're just changing the order, but not changing the notes. So that's what the harmony does natively as well. So this top control here. And this applies to any chord. So say I go to A minor, so the 6th degree of my chord scale, and invert that. Oops. Yeah, you get a very different melodic element to what you're playing. Yeah, chord inversions. Next up, let's explore some chord voicing options, which kind of run parallel to chord inversions. There's a lot of overlap and interrelation between voicings and inversions. So far, I've been going through inversions and playing everything in closed position. Closed position meaning everything is close together. It's all within one octave span. I've not breached that octave distance on any of these voicings. Not sure how standard the terms are that I've kind of adopted. I think it's just largely the method I was taught. The instruments I play, so I'm primarily a guitar player, so drop 2 and drop 3 voicings are a term that is used for a lot of common voicings that exist on guitar. I'm not sure how standard they are in more general music theory terms, but there's a logic to them. So drop 2, let's start there. It's kind of a mechanical alteration to a chord voicing, where I think a lot of it comes from like choral arrangement, where you would have soprano, alto, tenor, bass from low to high. And drop 2, you're taking the second highest voice, so you're taking the alto voice and dropping it down an octave. So if we do that for our close position root inversion C major 7, then my second from top voice, my alto voice, is playing the perfect fifth. Let's take that down the octave. That's my drop 2 C major 7. A couple of things have happened though. We're now breaking out of that closed position octave span. But we've also changed the bass note, so we no longer have C in the bass like we did in closed position. We've now got G in the bass. So what I did on the harmony specifically when going from closed position to drop 2 is I'm not just dropping the second from top note in that specific root inversion cluster, I'm automatically taking an inversion that will land me with a consistent bass note. So in this case, I want to find the inversion of this C major 7 that gives me the C as the second top note, as the alto voice, which happens to be the second inversion there. So that's G, B, C, and E. And if I take that C, drop it down to the bass, that's a very stable voicing. I think it gains a lot more breathing room than the closed position variant of that, because we no longer have this flat 2 interval that's really densely packed together. Yeah, that's drop 2s. Like, they're actually very straightforward, and the inversions are so heavily related. Like there are inversions of every drop 2. So let's go through the motions here, where I'm going to play an inversion of this. The way it works is I actually take I'm not just rotating the lowest note and putting it up an octave, because we're already spanning more than an octave. Each chord tone moves to its next relevant chord degree. So the E is going to go to the G, that B is going to go to the C, there we go. So this is my first inversion, drop 2, C major 7th. Yeah, I'm not the most accomplished keyboard player, so it takes me a minute to find the precise voicings. But that's how a drop 2 is derived, is you're just taking the second highest note from a closed position cluster and dropping it down an octave. Drop 3, exact same thing, but we're taking the third note from the top, so we're taking the tenor voice and dropping that down an octave. So if I go back to my closed position, C major 7, drop the third. This is my drop 3 voicing, where I've got C, E's now in the bass, G and B. But again, we've changed the root note of the chord. So to retain that C in the bass, I'm going to need to go to my third inversion, which is this version with the major 7th in the bass. So now this is my going from root inversion, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion, take the tenor voice, which is that C, drop that down an octave, and we've got this wider spread again of the notes, so it adds a lot more breathing room to the space. So yeah, let's listen to that on the harmony. C major 7 close position, drop 2, drop 3. But what it's done is it's kept the C in the bass for each of these, but for every one of these, voicing spreads, we can invert those and change the arrangement. So yeah, that's inversions. I'll just to sort of reinforce, I'll show this on guitar briefly. Just because I know the fretboard better than a keyboard in reality. So yeah, drop 2 and drop 3 voicings on guitar are probably going to look very familiar to any guitar players, because they're chord shapes that we kind of know more naturally to this instrument. So drop 2, that's this sort of classic voicing where everything's grouped together, starting from the A string. And then my drop 3 is rotated around that way. So if anything, it's actually more cumbersome to play close position on a guitar, because it's a bit of a stretch, like to get that order naturally from low to high, just due to the nature of how a guitar is constructed. So drop 2s are much more readily under fingertip. Yeah, a lot of the reason why the sort of chord engine came about that became the harmony, I was using a series of Max MSP patches to help me practice my chord scales and voicings and inversions. So that's the 4 inversions of major 7th, drop 2. I think my personal favourite one is this first inversion, where we've got that flat 2 interval in the middle of the chord, but then adding the other contacts around it. last inversion is kind of the least useful. Like when there's a bass added in, that kind of adds the context a bit more. But having that major seventh in the bass and the root note and the lowest note of it is a bit dense. Yeah, the inversions of drop 3 are quite nice as well. There we go. Let's bring that down the octave. I'm out of practice. And the last one being the major seventh in the bass. So yeah, that's the voicings as they apply to the guitar, where yeah, they're maybe just a bit more familiar, recognizable. But you know, guitar and piano, keyboard, like they've got, in my mind, different pros and cons. Like on a keyboard, there's one way to play any individual note. There's only one button. But on guitar, you can play the same note. You can play it multiple times in different positions. So yeah, there's pros and cons to it. Like it's interesting. I think when it comes to modal patterns, guitar's got the edge where it's more of a natural transposing instrument, where the actual fingering shapes stay consistent even though you're starting from a different semitone. Whereas if you do that on a black and white keyboard, you need to completely change the fingering pattern as you go. Yeah, this is okay, so we've covered quite a lot so far in terms of chord voicings, inversions, and how chords are extrapolated, how they're derived from being a pattern of skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. It's all very formulaic. Next up, let's dive into the musical modes and modal theory and what they are. Again, we're starting from C major scale as our sort of home base of Western music theory. So much derives from just these 7 notes, interestingly. But there's a few things to consider. This is a 7-note scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But that's masked over a full chromatic scale of 12 tones. And we're skipping certain ones. In this case, for C major, we're skipping all the black keys. So that gives us a pattern, that gives us a formula that is unique to this particular scale, this masking. And it comes down to tones versus semitones. So we know that chromatic scale is 12 semitones. But a tone is just an interval of 2 semitones. So C to D is the space of a tone because it's got a semitone in between. Again, if we go C down to B, which is a valid scale degree of C major, that's a semitone as well because there's no black key in the middle. So if we follow through the full major scale, we can measure the distance in intervals note to note. So C, we then have a tone, we have another tone, we've got a semitone, another tone, 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 semitone. And that's our fundamental formula for the C major scale, is tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. And this is, inadvertently, this is how key signatures are derived. So the term key signature you might be familiar with, like it's kind of the lookup table at the start of a musical stave that shows how many sharps or flats to just acknowledge are played in replacement of their bass natural notes. But what are they and why do they exist? That was a question that I had for the longest time, because I think when I was studying classical music originally, you're just taught this as rote. It's like, this is A major, which contains 3 sharps, and you just have to internalize and acknowledge that fact. But it wasn't until I started studying modal theory that I was like, oh, this makes sense. This is why A major has got 3 sharps. And it's because of this formula of note intervals. So tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Let's say I apply that to A, and I want to play A major. I can't just play that all white notes, because that gives me a different scale. It happens to be the natural minor scale. But if I want this to be A major, then I need to apply that tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone over the chromatic scale starting from A. So from A, I want to apply a tone, another tone, semitone, tone, 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 and our semitone at the end. So that's where we end up with that first accidental from C to C sharp to get tone, tone. Next one, F sharp, G sharp, A. And this applies anywhere. Let's go E flat and play E flat major. I want to go tone, 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 semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So that's got more accidentals. It just so happens that C major, being the sort of baseline derivative, the piano's kind of designed around the scale, ultimately. Like, that scale existed in choral music, and it just so happens to have that profile of tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone over a more fundamental equal division 12 tone chromatic scale. Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of a chicken and egg question. What came first? Yeah, so we now understand key signatures and why they exist, why they make sense. It's all down to this formula, this pattern. So what does that mean? What are the modes in that case? The modes are variations of this major scale. So that formula being tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, this scale has got another name. It's referred to as the Ionian mode. So the modes themselves, each one's got a name, all 7 of them, and they are Greek names. It's worth having a look at the Wikipedia page on modal theory, or skimming through some chapters of a theory book, because there's a lot of interesting history to it. They're regions in Greece. There's Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian are the 7 major scale based modes. I'm still not sure. Like, having studied music theory at length, I don't actually know if there is a correlation between the place name and a tonal history in terms of was the Dorian scale only played in that region? I don't think there's any way for us to know beyond just cultural, historic clues, maybe. Who knows? But the names, they're just names. They're just terms assigned to these particular scales and modes to give us a way of communicating. If we say we're playing B Dorian, you know what that means. It's the Dorian scale starting from B, and it's an easy way to convey it. Like, we know, it's just an abstract terminology that was defined and became a sort of cultural norm at a certain point within music theory. So, yeah, it's interesting. But that's the thing. Over time, if you're studying this, you'll build up a relationship with the individual modes and what their characteristics are, like why they sound a certain way. So much modern music is composed modally, like, as opposed to just being in a major key versus a minor key. There's more ambiguity to it. Like, they're pulling from these modal contexts that give slight different variances from just being sheer major scale composition or minor scale composition. Like, they have character tones. They've got a bit more nuance to them, and where they come from is kind of simplistic. It's surprisingly dumb where the modes are derived from, and I'll show you. So C major scale we know. That gives us tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. That's our Ionian mode starting in C. If I played that in A, that's A Ionian, which is that tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone pattern. The modes are just the different degrees starting of that same formula. So if I keep it all white keys just to have simplicity of what notes to select, I'm going to start from D and just play all white keys from that note. This is D Dorian, which is me just playing the major scale, but starting from the second note and playing that D to D, which doesn't seem like anything special. It's just the same notes, it's the same scale. But if I factor in my tonal center, like my root note as being this D minor sound, I've got a minor characteristic sound to this. And if I play that scale, I now have tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone. I've rotated the formula around by 1. So as simple as that, I've just offset it by 1 and started one note up. So I now have, if I apply that to C now, so this is, it's maybe harder to hear because it's easy to just default to that C major as being our center. Because if I play that C and then play D Dorian over it, it's hard not to hear that foundation. But if I change my C and play C Dorian over that, so I now know that my Dorian mode formula is tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone. So if I go tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone. This is my C Dorian centered mode. So let's do an analysis similar to what I was doing with my chord scales on chord analysis. Let's look at the scale degrees and like character notes within this formula. So if I play my one chord where I'm following the same pattern of skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note, I've got two accidentals in this chord. I now have an E flat, turning it to a minor third. Perfect fifth is still there. That natural A that's kind of a prominent tone in this. So we're in a minor tonality, it's a minor scale because we've got that minor third, we've also got that minor seventh. So our one chord is centered around a minor seventh chord, but there's this kind of odd one out. That's a bit more distinctive. So Dorian mode is a minor scale, natural minor scale with a sharpened 6th degree. And it all comes from just simply rotating around that formula and starting tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone. Let's go to the next mode, just while we're at it. Let's go to E Phrygian, so Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian. Phrygian's our third mode, and that starts from the E if we're basically just rotating around and keeping it from C Ionian. So we now have semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone, tone. it's a minor scale again. Tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone. So our 1 chord is a minor 7th again. So let's apply Phrygian to C and play C Phrygian. So already I've played that wrong. It's semitone, tone, tone, tone. There we are. So C minor 7 is our 1 chord, but we have this alteration of it just, it's not quite just a natural minor scale, which would be for reference, but we have that we've got that flat second as our first interval, so it's got this extra darkness to it. Yeah, that's Phrygian. Lydian is next. For playing that from F. So we follow that same process of deriving the formula. We have tone, 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 semitone, tone, tone, semitone. So the whole thing's rotated round again. So it's all the same formula, but just starting from the nth degree. So if we apply this to C now, we get that tone, tone, tone. So that's an alteration from our major scale. Tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone. So it's not that far off our bass major scale. We just got one accidental, which is this. So it means we can have a C that sounds a bit more unstable, but that's including the character tone of Lydian, which is our sharpened 4th. But still fundamentally a major 7th basis. I'll speed run through these. So that was our Lydian mode. Next one, Mixolydian. So this is our first sort of like odd one out chord, if we remember from the chord scale, the major scale chord scale derivative, where it's a dominant 7th as our starting chord. So if I apply this to C, then I'm creating that flat 7, and that's the character tone. So Mixolydian mode is almost identical to Ionian, to the major scale, but with that flattened 7th degree. So it's got that sort of more bluesy dominant 7th sound, which, it being the 1 chord, it's interesting because it's an unstable chord. It's a chord that wants to resolve somewhere. But if that's our 1 chord, it's got this extra level of tension to it. Next up we have Aeolian, starting from A. So this is maybe more of a familiar territory for anyone with a bit more music theory experience, is relative major, relative minor. The relative minor of C major is A minor. And that's because the minor scale, if you start from A, gives us the natural minor pattern, the Aeolian mode. which is following the formula: tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone. So if I apply that modal formula to C, then tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone. And this is our natural minor scale. To gain stable foundation, the one chord is a C minor 7, in this case for C Aeolian. Our last mode, the Locrian mode, it's kind of the odd one out of the full set, which, if we remember from our chord scale derivation, is a minor 7 flat 5. So it's got that minor third, flattened fifth, and minor 7th chord. So minor 7th interval, which if we apply that to C, then we have minor 7, flattened fifth. So you can see this is now, for C Locrian, it's kind of as altered as it could be. So we're starting from C, got semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, tone. But it means that our one chord is, it kind of suffers from that instability of it being the minor 7 flat 5, which is hard to resolve to, because it by nature is one of the chord qualities that needs to resolve the most. It's not to say it can't be done. I'm pretty sure there's a good video out there of an analysis of a Björk song, which is composed very purposefully in Locrian, but you'll be hard pushed to find a common, find pop songs written in Locrian mode, whereas the other modes more so, yeah, like you'll find them a lot. But yeah, that's the modes in a nutshell. It's all formulaic and it's all derived from the major scale. And it means that each of the modes, if you consider them in isolation in themselves, they can be looked at as being modifications of our sort of foundation major scale and the relative minor, the natural minor scale. So those are kind of the reference points in my mind for tonal color. So major scale, then minor scale. That's the level of general light sound to general darker sound. But across the range of modes, we've got modifications that go both ways. Like if we look at the Lydian mode, the fourth one, it's the major scale, but with that sharpened fourth. And if we go darker, let's say we play the natural minor. If we go to Phrygian mode, which is a minor mode itself, it's got that flat 2, so it's got that extra. Yeah, there's more darkness and dissonance to it. Dorian being somewhere in the middle, so it's a minor scale primarily. But it's got that major 6th degree in it. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. Modes are just different starting points of the fundamental major scale, but then treating them individually as their own scale. So that's what the harmony does. that's in Ionian mode. This is our fundamental major scale. If I change the mode, let's go to Lydian. Then if I play the Lydian mode, then it's got its own unique chord scale pattern, which is again derived from the same process of skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. Let's go to a minor one. Let's go to Dorian. So let's play our Dorian mode. Again, different tonal palette, different character to it. So yeah, hope that makes sense as a sort of quick overview rundown of modal theory and where they come from and why they work. They strangely do. I think a lot of it comes down to cultural tradition. I think music has evolved over centuries and the modes have become a very foundational element to Western harmony. And I mean, of course, this differs between cultures and different tonal systems. Like we look at traditional classical Indian music, it's got a different set of scales. So things are very different and there's maybe overlap, but a lot of it is maybe not so directly applicable. I think Western music has kind of had this weird standardization where 440 hertz was defined as being A, somewhat arbitrarily from a certain point. I don't know if that's because it divides nicely, it multiplies nicely if you're calculating frequencies for tuning. But then equal temperament, which takes that A as a reference point as a static and then equally distributes the division of semitones to be equally as out of tune as the next. So that's it's a division to disperse them across the frequency spectrum for fundamental notes. It's interesting. It's a really fascinating topic, and I highly recommend anyone who's into music, like, just the theory side feels deep and feels complicated, but a lot of it is built upon these smaller building blocks that are actually quite straightforward and quite simplistic. So just finding a pattern, rotating that pattern by one at a time, and just using that as a rule set for a base of scales. It's yeah, it's fun. So hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching.